I'm just gonna reiterate the peak performers roster here. All right. Do we really believe that Alorum, Kitsuo, Robbie Bob, Sage Wabe, and Dardoch are gonna miss ACL playoffs? Do you in your heart believe it?
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Salt Mine. We've tried to start this episode multiple times and it hasn't worked out great, so we're gonna roll with it here. There's only so many hours left in the night. This is season. Oh no, this is season 4, episode 12. We'll get into season 5 before too long, but.
Just so you know, Gordo, after I messed up the one time I had to lead out, I'm not going to ever flame you for
That's good.
I absolutely forgot the number.
No, yeah, I would never keep track of the number, and I'm never
It's
going
the curse
to
of
keep
the
track of the
host.
number. It'll get easier when we start the next
True.
season. Like 1, 2, 3, that'll be real easy, and then I'll probably start losing it again. Anyway, we're back with more ACL coverage. Do want to dip our toes back into the NACL a little bit to kick things off at the start of the night. There's Yuuji rumors flying around. I just want to get excited about another potential most valuable prospect making their way into the major leagues. Fingers crossed that it's the LCS. But Maryville posted today that they are looking for a jungler pretty late in the collegiate offseason, I would say, as their fall semester should have already started by now. And whenever community figures are tweeting, does this mean that Yuuji is getting a professional spot? They're responding with like cheeky emojis and stuff. So I'm going to take that as confirmation that Yuuji's starting somewhere. And I want to have that little conversation to kick things off because I'm calling that a victory for NA Tier 2, baby.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's a huge
There was always
W.
the chance. Yeah, there was always the chance that maybe he gets pulled to another place, right? Like if it's not an A, he could go to EMEA, considering that he has that residency. I still open technically the fact that there is a second Americas division, and that division technically can take Americas players as well. So he could also go to that part. But I just hope that he gets to play on Tier 1 in this next year. I feel like he deserves it, and he has shown that he has the capabilities for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would lose my mind, though, if after 3 years, 4 years in
3.
NA Tier 2 and finally getting NA residency, if he just goes back to EMEA and plays for EMEA,
Yep.
that will drive me a little bit crazy. That will push me over. That'll be like my 9th reason why. So we're getting up there, but not
Well, if that's your ninth
Yeah, what
reason,
is
I
the
think
next-
Quax is. I know Quax was have a meltdown. So
yeah,
if,
no,
like,
like,
Gordo's bad.
I mean, as like the resident jungler on the salt mine, like even watching this guy, even before I started like broadcasting, like I remember seeing Yuuji's face constantly in challenger VODs. Like when I was trying to like really actively climb to diamond and like get up there, like there were a few handful of junglers whose accounts I would like stalk. I was trying to put it at like a nicer term, but no, I would straight up stalk them. I would watch the VODs. Yuuji was one of those people, and it's for good reason. He is an incredibly capable player in solo queue, but it doesn't really matter about solo queue. It matters about competitive, and he's just as capable in there as well. He's been that guy for several years. So I feel like this is a player where he has, through years and years and years, like shown that he is a very promising prospect, and it's finally happening, it looks like, which is really which I'm really happy about. So my only hope is that because it seems like NA has kind of a short memory, is that he can actually stick the landing, because I feel like we've had a few tier 2 import junglers, not naming names, maybe some of them have gone to Immortals or something, that's all I'll say, but that haven't necessarily stuck the landing and have kind of tanked the career trajectory that should have been really promising. So my only hope is that not only does he get into LCS, but he's able to stay there and flourish at the same time, especially with most of the recent rookies that we've been getting being able to do the same. So
Yeah, I hope that that's going to end up being the case as well. And I just want to, talking about development, I feel like this time around, especially next year, considering that there are going to be quote unquote the changes to some of the formatting. I think there was going to be like 3 splits now with 3 international tournaments. It's what they said, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So with 3 splits, you have more than enough reason to at the very least have enough split and try everything out. And whatever works, you stick it onto the wall. Whatever doesn't, it's fine. But at the very least, use that.
That's what you think, but
That's what I hope.
That's what it should be. Maybe you guys
Yeah.
disagree with me, but I really do not like the 3 splits format. I think this is I think it's the reason EU is dog shit now, personally. But
I
So
think you could be in 3 splits without necessarily adopting everything that's bad about the LEC
Yeah.
format. But
keep best of 3s, please. Like find a way to do
That's my
that, and
problem.
I'll be happy. Yeah.
That's
Like,
my issue. Best of ones are completely useless. and
yeah,
that's why
I
not
think
BO.
best of 3s made our region so much better this year. Like BO3s were to me like the secret to the success of LCS this year. Like indexing into rookies was great, but like being able to get more games in like a more condensed environment was to me was the trick. So if we regress not only back to best of ones, but to 3 split format, which in my opinion is just inherently unhealthy, I will be like livid. Like I will turn into liquid because of it. I will be so upset.
I think there's only 2 ways that could pan out well or not for the format. One is either they make it longer weeks, so instead of just having 2 days a week of games, you have a lot more games a week, which that would make it easier to have the 3 split format, because that way you will be playing consistently and you can fit in the BO3s and the BO1s and all of that. And the other is just simply, I think you have to make the format short without shortening the format. And that
Yeah.
is like, for example, the like had the BO1s into group phase into playoff phase, if I'm not wrong, per format. I
Yeah.
think you have to omit one of the 3. And I think you take out the BO1 format, you just jump into a pseudo group playoff format or GSL format where you just play the BO3s and you use that to get seeding into the playoffs, and then that way you go immediately into the playoffs. You have to omit one of the 3 parts, because if not, you will take longer, and that means that you have to play more BO1s, or you just omit one of the 3 parts and you just play everything BO3 until
Yeah.
seasonable part of playoffs.
yeah, like
Well-
I can tank single round robin. I just
Mhm.
I think it just needs to be best of 3. Maybe
My-
like, and I don't know. This is where like studio days get difficult, but like I could handle 4 days, 2 BO3s each. Everybody plays.
Maybe they
games
get
a
some more
week.
broadcast talent on that
But
too.
let's
so,
say
it's
like
win-win.
you could technically make the BO1 part online. Like realistically, who cares about the BO1 part? You can make it online
Don't do
and
the
play
BO1
the BO3
part. I hate the BO1
online.
part.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you can
and
don't
cut
even
it,
do
but
it.
if you're
And-
not going to cut it, it doesn't really matter if you do it online.
And I think another thing that people aren't considering with BO1s is that like if NA is doing, if the rumors are to be believed, every major region is doing this, right? Not just Europe and North America,
Yeah,
but China,
everyone.
Yeah, but
Korea,
they'll have like their own
and-
formats.
and that to me, like if that would make them worse. And I'm like, especially after Fly versus Gen G, who could, we could talk about that in an episode in and of itself. But like, if the reason we are now able to catch up to China and Korea after this year is because the format is like actively weakening the East. And we're now on like a similar level because not only are we getting stronger, but they are getting weaker because they don't, improve with the format. Then it'll feel like a hollow way that we're getting better because we're essentially dumbing them down to our level and our shitty formats in order to make ourselves better. That just feels like awful because we just came off of a series where we almost fucking beat them on even playing fields where they were practicing in and out and we were doing the same thing. So if we change all of that up to the point where we're now like at a similar like level, then it's going to feel super hollow in my mind.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any
I think
chance
it's
that
fair.
they do, right? Like the individual leagues still have some autonomy. There's no way that like LPL and LCK just like start doing
LPL is a 17-team league. I don't think you can fit that if you
Yeah, I
try
don't think
to
it's
do it.
possible.
Yeah, there's no way they're just gonna like switch to like all BO1 formats or whatever.
And also
Just
they are
do
introducing
stuff.
APAC. So like I just don't think that you can make this sort of random, or not random, but like huge changes on every major region. Like they already are trying to implement what is it, Fearless eventually. So if they are going to do that, they cannot just simply change format as well. Like I think they will have to wait and see what they do, but I don't think they're going to just break everything up just like that.
I feel like my opinion on Fearless has kind of changed. I feel like, so I will say, and this is something that I feel like a lot of players have been saying, a lot of coaches in particular do not like Fearless. Like
Yeah.
they are saying that it like actively hampers the ability to like understand the meta. And like it just makes teams worse because it makes them play champions that they're potentially worse at. So it brings the overall competitiveness down because the players aren't as comfortable on a wide array of characters. And while I think being like versed in like a bunch of champions is integral to being a pro player, I do think that it shouldn't. I think what they should do is try to balance it, right? Because if you're going into 3 splits, I think this gives you plenty of opportunity to like mix around how you actually want to do drafts. Like we could have a split of like Fearless. We could have like a tournament of Fearless, and then we could go back to regular.
I think
But
that's
I feel
the
like
plan to start, and I hope
that-
they just stick with it.
I hope they do that because I've been like hearing some people or like seeing some people who are like, oh, we should just do Fearless from here on out as like the new norm. I disagree. Like after about a year of doing Fearless, I think that it is a fun thing, but to make it permanent would be a mistake, in my opinion. Like
Yes.
I think it's important at the developmental level in ACL, but like at the pro play level, I don't think it's as important.
Well, and on the
Yeah.
bright side, they are kind of like they're giving with one hand and taking away with the other here. So I am almost like I think if you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have been more convinced that Fearless would eventually like take hold everywhere. But now that they're like, yes, they're implementing this spring tournament that they're saying is going to be Fearless, but they're also like NACL is going to stop being Fearless. I don't know why my mic keeps or my cam keeps freezing in weird spots, but they've already said Mark Z corrected me on this because at first I thought it looked really, really goofy. But it sounds like NACL in summer is going to not be Fearless at all now when determining who's going to be the promo team. Because I had some kind of tweet after they did that announcement. Yeah, after they did that announcement about Tier 2 and promo and stuff, where they didn't really tell us too much, but they did do an announcement. It's very vague about it. It just says, like, we're bringing back Fearless for spring, and then isn't really specific for summer. So I made, like, a tweet saying, like, so we're going to have these teams play summer full Fearless and then go into a promo tournament, and either the demoting team who's been playing regular league all season is going to now have to play Fearless, or the promoting team who's been playing Fearless all split is going to have to play regular league. That seems really goofy to me, and Mark Z replied to me and was like, that is not what the announcement says. There's not going to be Fearless in NACL in summer.
Got it.
It wasn't as clear
that.
as it should have been, but I appreciate the commissioner coming and smacking me down before that misinformation spreads. And I think that's a good thing. So they're at least peeling back, like when they're forced with a decision about the balancing of Fearless versus non-Fearless, they're leaning towards making Tier 2 not Fearless rather than making Tier 1 Fearless, at least when it comes to like the big important stuff of like summer and promo tournaments and things like that. So I think that's a good step. I think I am now less confident that Fearless eventually becomes like the full norm.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm
I
still
think-
I'm in the minority now. Oh, sorry, Slayer.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna. You go with your point, DDS. I'm gonna find a way to pull us back down from the Tier 1 level, like we've pivoted.
And for
Almost.
just
Hell yeah.
quickly, I just say it's quickly. I think maybe I'm now in the minority though, because I feel like I would like to make the full-on transition to Fearless for all regions, because I feel like the problem in general is that Fearless is, or the way that Fearless is played is limited to only a certain amount of players, and I feel like that's the biggest issue. Because you cannot develop yourself in multiple other champions if your competition is not trying to do the same as well. But in solo queue, your competition is playing just the meta. So if you're just playing against, let's say, for example, you're playing against APA that is playing, let's say, 6, and you're trying to prepare different champions, but he's playing only meta champions. Your competition is just playing to what he's practicing on, and you're playing to what you're practicing against. Or practicing on, but you're never going to develop the same level of a skill set against the same level of players because your practice is not going for that, or at the very least, the higher tier practice is not doing the same. If we equal the playing field where everyone is doing fearless, I think that will equal things out more, or at the very least will improve the general mindset of learning and trying out the newer champions, because you're forced to do it. That being said, I understand the point where players don't like it. I am someone that believes that if you're not willing to try out certain stuff, it's more so your desire to not try and learn it, more so than the difficulty of it being there. Because everyone
Yeah.
has the same difficulty, but I feel like you cannot be stuck on the same thing as a pro player, because you have to try and find different stuff, because if not, you're always going to be below the guy that is better than you, straight up.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be the thing. But
And-
that's a different argument, and that's why I would like to see it, but I can understand the other argument with it. And until that becomes the norm, or if it doesn't, then I think sticking with just normal play is much understandable.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, right? Like, if you're trying to develop a player, you need to make sure that they're versed in like everything. So yeah, you just got to make sure that like at the development level, like they are able to be, like they're able to play wider varieties of champions. They can't just one trick their way through academy and tier 2 and whatnot, like amateur and tier 2 and whatnot. So let's speak a little bit about the amateur scene, because I know Slayer wanted to get us on track.
Bring us home, Slayer. Bring us back to our homeland.
I mean, he quite literally that he said what I was gonna say too. Like to sync it. It's like this is the base take, and I'm actually not permitting any further debate. It's that fearless serves a good purpose in developmental positions. It does not serve a good purpose in high tier 1 international events and promotion between tier events, in my mind. So where it's most important is the ACL, which we did in fact have the 4th week of the ACL.
2 weeks.
We also had the 3rd week of the ACL.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
3rd week
last week.
I forgot.
So, and I recall us saying that when we did our episode on the 2nd week that we wanted to flip over to the Zaun division first.
Well ahead of you.
So go.
Well ahead of you. I'm
go.
sitting
I
right
let
here
this
on
guy.
Zaun.
I let this guy close one salt mine stream, and now he's transitioning, and he's. No, I'm kidding.
He's full on hosting now. It's like a virus. Yeah, so let's get it as on. Let's start things off talking about the ACL. I want to shout out the Sido Combine too, but we could do that towards the end of the stream. Towards the end of the episode. We're not live. You know what I mean. Got to save room to edit out the parts that nobody wants to listen to. But let's kick off with Zaun, and then we'll talk about Sido maybe a little bit at the end. All right, so we're halfway through the season officially now. To recap weeks 3 and 4 in Zaun, we had Clown Gaming take a 2-1 over Oklahoma Christian. Ole Miss takes a 2-1 over Skibbity Looks Maxers. Cupid Esports takes a 2-1 over Briarcliff Chargers. Pulsing Gooners take a 2-0 over St. Clair Saints. Pulsing Gooners then also take a 2-0 over Skibbity Looks Maxers. Oklahoma Christian takes a 2-1 over Briarcliff. Clown Gaming takes a 2-0 over Cupid. Ole Miss takes a 2-1 over Ember Foxes. And Ole Miss takes a 2-0 over Clown. They had some reschedules. So Ole Miss, 3 matches, 3 wins over these last 2 weeks. There goes TDS. Let's talk about...
Let's do Ole Miss first, because so obviously like our last episode was with Colomer, right, who provided insight, and this was before they played a certain match, before they played like a single match. I would say Ole Miss. So, and Slayer can chime in here because we managed to cover them, but I would say Ole Miss. This is a team that looks really good, but they clearly have like a lot to work on. Like their wins like have been good, but there have been times where I'm like, they just threw this game. Like they throw a game at least twice every single game that they play. Like if they're ahead, do not trust them to keep that lead. Trust them to throw it and then get it back, and then they win. Like it feels like this team is definitely the definition of rough around the edges. Like they're good and they've got the fundamentals down, but boy, oh boy, it's like that one tweet that Colomer sends where he's like, oh wait, I can't wait to watch my favorite team play. Why the fuck are we throwing? Nice, we won. Like that literally is Ole Miss.
It's a perfect tweet.
God damn, it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember rolling up
agree.
to Shibby's stream of the Ole Miss Skibbity Looks Maxers series and be like, why are we in game 3, guys? This is that it's not where things were supposed to be. The word there was, I think, like Asyla got a little blasted on a comp that was supposed to win early, and things just got really out of hand. I know you guys have watched a little bit more Ole Miss than I have. Has that really been the source? Does it really feel like you could point towards the new mid still taking time to jive, or do you think it's
I
been
don't think
the whole
so.
squad that's really not firing on all cylinders?
It's just the Ole Miss. It's the
It's
Ole
the
Miss
vibe,
special,
you
man.
know.
It's the Ole Miss special, and then
Okay.
I don't want to speak too much for him, but I talked to I think Colomer's also just getting creative with the drafts in a spot where this is the perfect time to do it. Like, as much as ACL is prestigious, maybe I don't want to bag our sponsors. I don't think Ole Miss cares the most about ACL crown compared to what's actually at stake for Ole Miss. So I think Colomer's treating some of these drafts and these game scenarios with a bit more creativity. And he definitely did that with the Ember Fox's Game 2 draft. And
Yep,
it did, in
dreaming.
fact, yeah, it definitely did backfire. So,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, it was like, the way he phrased it to me is like, he said, Game 1 draft was good. Game 2 draft, we were trying something fun. And then Game 3 draft, I knew we won a draft. Like, that's probably his approach to most of these matchups with teams that he deems are not good enough to compete with Ole Miss.
And Game 3 between Ole Miss and Ember Foxes was probably one of the most fun games I've had the opportunity to cast in the ACL so far, because both drafts, if you look at their drafts, were really, really good. Like, Slayer even thought that I called it out really well. It was essentially a full engage comp against a full disengage comp. It was like Oriana, Vi, Kaisa, Galio, Renekton, and they were up against like Zaya, Alistair, Urgot. It was very like Homwa Life versus FlyQuest kind of thing. And it was like it was an absolute banger. But it definitely proves that it doesn't really matter if they're going against Ember Foxes. It doesn't really matter if they're going against Skibbity Lookmaxers. Like, this team still has the potential to, I would say, drop if they aren't putting their guard up. Obviously, they have the opportunity to reel it back in and then push forward. But, like, this is definitely classical mess. If ever I've seen one. Doesn't matter if you change the mid laner. It's still the same style, it feels like.
Yeah, I think that the team, I already called them a team that I feel like should be topping this group. But the problem is that you can top the group playing like this, yes, but it's going to be the more difficult your opponents are. And the problem is that, yes, they have gone against Ember Foxes and Skibidi Look Maxers, which, technically speaking, they are not looking that bad when you look at the group table, the group standing, sorry. And look where both of these teams are positioned right now. But they're still missing important matches against, obviously, St. Clair, against Pulsing Gunners, or Gunstar, how I like to call them. And I think those teams are going to be putting much more trouble when you give them the chance to go for that. Especially because Ember Fox, the Game 3 against Ember Foxes, right? I wasn't able to watch, like, all of the situation, how it went, but I'm pretty sure that they were behind for a good chunk of the game.
Yeah, they were.
At the very least for the start. That's a sort of game where if you give a lead, an important lead to a team like Pulsing Gunners, they're going to take that and drive you down. Like that, that's going to be much more difficult. And that's the part where I'm scared with Ole Miss. That being said, I still think they're going to top the group, and I'm not going to back down. So I'm going to hope that they are cleaning this stuff up as much as possible. And I also don't think Asyla is the problem, like Quax was saying. I think it's more so a team...
I didn't say it was.
I think he's agreeing that Asyla is
I'm
the
agreeing
problem.
with you.
Okay.
So that isn't the problem. Yeah, like I agree. Like, I think it's more so Ole Miss still trying to, like, not, or maybe I'll reverse it. I don't think Asyla is the problem as a player. I think he's just they are trying to fix him into the idea of the team more so than just still being different parts working together. I think that's what they are trying to mesh together as much as possible.
I think the big thing is that, like, and I managed to talk to Colomer before we actually ended up casting that match last week against Ember Foxes. And I think the big thing is that this team is obviously the Shogo show, but the show is not as I would say big as it once was, because the AD carry, just AD carry as a role, and this is nothing to Shogo. I still think Shogo is that guy. Like, if the Saito Combine has proven anything, Shogo is the man in tier 3. But the fact is, AD carry just isn't as impactful as it was in spring, right? Like in spring, you had, you know, more powerful items. You had the ability to play around the AD carry with a lot more resources. Nowadays, though, you know, with lane swaps being a thing, with item efficiency being nerfed, and all of these changes going around Summoner's Rift since 14-19, you don't have that same potential that you once do. And when it is there, when you do have the opportunity to get your AD carry to be that 1v5 carry, it comes with a lot more conditions and it comes with a lot more effort. Like you are essentially putting in double the effort to get the same result. And I think Ole Miss, as, you know, a team that just got a new mid laner and are just, you know, still adjusting to the meta, like all the teams, are trying to find the best way to get to that result at the end of the day. So it's a journey, and I'm sure they're going to conclude it at some point. Like I'm sure they'll be able to get to full strength, and probably, like TDS said, top. I don't know if they'll top the group. I personally think Pulsing Gooners are probably going to best them, given that they are playing. What is it, next week? I think is when they're playing. So assuming Ole Miss don't, you know, hit Super Saiyan levels, more than likely the head-to-head is going to go to the Pulsing Gooners. So even if Pulsing Gooners drop a match, then, you know, they'll win the head-to-head. But I simply think Ole Miss are going to have to ramp up. Like this definitely is a team that is going to be scaling. That said, though, I do think that this is a squad trying to repeat the success that we saw in spring, but that being able to repeat that just takes a lot more effort at the end of the day. Yeah. Like now in this meta, it's a lot harder to get your AD carry as ahead as some of the games you got Shogo ahead in spring. Like it's hard to recreate that with gold being a lot more scarce.
Yeah. I will say their week 5 matchup is rescheduled to TBD, so that could be a strategic move, right? They could push that out as long as they want to have the best chance of winning it. But no, I doubt they're doing that. I bet they're just trying to find a time that works for everybody. But still going to be an option. The other thing I wanted to branch off of, it's been a while now, but TDS brought up that Skibidi Looks Maxers are technically, you know, in the middle of the pack. I actually do think this is like a team to look at, especially, we'll get into it a little bit in the other groups, but there are some lower seeded teams that are kind of ending up surprisingly competitive, like they might be in the playoff race a little bit. And if you look at the Skibidi Looks Maxers record, right, so in their losses, they take a game off Ole Miss. You know, we can argue and debate about how legitimate that is or not. And they lost to the Pulsing Gooners, of course, but those are the two best teams in the group, bar none. I don't think anybody really disagrees there. And then they have really solid, convincing wins up against Briarcliff and Oklahoma Christian. So taking that into mind, like they have all the middle of the pack teams left to play. So like if they roll up and they do, you know, they could beat Cupid. I think that's like on the table for sure, given their record so far. And then it's all it takes is like steal a match up against
St. Clair,
steal a match against Clown Gaming, steal a match against St. Clair, steal a match against Ember Foxes, and you're in the playoffs picture. Like, it's really it's not impossible for them. And they've played only like two very wide, far end of the spectrum kind of degrees of matchups so far. So I'm pretty curious to see what this team branches out to become in the upcoming weeks. And there's a lot of teams you can say that for, right? There's 3 teams at 2-2, 1 team at 2-1, and 1 team at 1-2 in this group. Yeah. So there's a wide middle ground that we should see start to parse itself out in the next week or two.
I definitely think it's going to come down to probably because it's 4 out of the 9, right? That end up promoting. I think it's going to come down to either Skibidi, Ember Foxes, or Clown for that last spot. Like I think Clown are kind of in the same boat as Skibidi Look Maxers. My biggest concern though with Clown is just that it feels like this roster, you know, has shades of like Reluminate, has shades of like Wang Town or the Wang Dynasty or the Wang whatever.
The Wangs.
Just the Wangs. Yeah. Like if you look at those organizations and how they did in OQs, they were the most inconsistent motherfuckers on the planet. Like sometimes Reluminate would do well for no reason, and then sometimes they would drop a series or a game or whatever to like Weed Alien 69 and like 4 wards. And then that basically was just how those squads rolled. So if they can reel in the inconsistency of the orgs that these players have played on, then I actually think they have a solid chance, because like looking down the line, like this is a good team. Like I think a lot of people are really sleeping on Enthralled in support. Like he's on the Saito Combine for a reason. It's because there is a promising diamond in Enthrall's support role ability. And I really hope it gets unlocked, because like he's a good ADC, but like I think he's actually showing up at support.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
And I do actually, your characterization of Clown being in the same boat is actually, I think, very accurate there, in that they have lost to Ole Miss and they have lost to Goonstar,
sorry.
but
Goonstar.
they have gotten to win up against Cupid and Oklahoma Christian. So in theory, and again, we're talking in the same breath about Skibidi Luxmaxers potentially being better than their seed, but they still have Skibidi Luxmaxers and Briarcliff yet to play. So if you're a seeding believer, if you have full confidence in those of us on the committee, then you're probably expecting Clown Gaming to scoop up 2 more easy wins coming into the latter half of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to. I tend to be a bit hesitant when judging like actual dark horse teams that like were seated in the lower tiers, because there's so.
I wouldn't call them a dark horse.
No. I'm talking about like with the fact we're like factoring like Skibidi look back, because there's so much schedule variancy. I guess there's a little bit less now that we don't cross group too much anymore with more teams, but like what you guys are kind of alluding to is like some teams, like you're talking about with like Clown Gaming, they had to start out playing Pulsing Gooners, and I believe they rescheduled the Ole Miss match.
They played the Gooners close too, by the way.
Yeah,
they had a really good game number 1. They had a really close game number 2. Like that was a featured match, and it was a very good match. I think there's worlds where Clown Gaming come out on top there. Could
happen.
It could have been a 2-0 for Clown Gaming.
Yeah, and then so I did the math, like the TBD match of Pulsing Gooners, or no, sorry, the Clown Gaming Ole Miss team, like that was supposed to be a week 1 matchup too. So like they had to start out rough, and then Skibidi Luxmaxers, like you're talking about, still have to play a lot of the tougher teams. So dark horses, like I tend to hesitate, like to, caution until like I would say in this ACL set, like week 6, maybe week 5, because there's just so much schedule variancy with how many teams there are. That like a lot of these teams that we might talk about, their roads are actually a lot less realistic if you judge the old strength of schedule thing that like sports, like especially like the NFL loves to do when it comes to like early-ish on parts of the season.
Yeah. So overall, though, I think it is going to be like a close competition between those 3. Like, I put Ember Foxes above Clown Gaming, but like, I don't know. It feels like Ember Foxes are also super inconsistent. Like they had a good fight against Ole Miss, like similar to Clown versus Pulsar. Like I think this was a very, very real world where Ember Foxes could have turned it around and won. Particularly, Reppy is actually kind of a beast. Like when he is when he is online, this guy is online. And I think it really showed. Like he actually kind of put Asila in the dirt in certain cases. But like again, they just toss sometimes for absolutely no reason, or you question a play they make, and if they're against a good team's going to run away with that mistake. So I think it's going to be a 3-way slugfest between those squads at the very least. I would say Ember Foxes have a lead over the other 2, but it could be close because we've seen flashes of brilliance from Clown. We've seen flashes of brilliance from Skibidi Luxmaxers, and if they are able to highlight on that, then I think we have a very real possibility of them being able to make it. So it's going to be exciting. Like obviously we are only halfway through, so like playoffs, I would say we start to consider playoffs around 2 weeks from now, or maybe a week after this. But like I don't really think we're going to have to ask that question just yet. But like the fact that we are seeing teams who are super down there in seeding rise up is really exciting. Like, and this is not like a one-off thing. This is not exclusive to Zaun. We're going to get into that later. But every other division has a dark horse. Almost every other one does.
Yep.
And it means that, like, you're going to have to be on your toes for the ACL because, like the coverage that is looking at these matches is pretty vital because each team that's going to get in is definitely going to deserve it. Like, I don't think any of them are going to get lucky at any point.
Yeah. There'll always be a bit of luck, but not like other splits. I would agree. And the point I would wrap up on, like, kind of Zaun and this, like, dark horse talk, week 6, Skibbity Looksmaxers versus St. Clair Saints. Like, that's the actual test. If Skibbity Looksmaxers can be a playoff team, they will beat St. Clair in week 6. But if they don't, like, that's like the gatekeep matchup for me in this for dark horse and Zaun.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So,
All right.
do we want to go to not the Undercity, but the Overcity?
The
this time
Overcity,
around?
the Piltover City. Yes, let's get over to Piltover. So, Piltover, since week 3, BlackRock Esports take a 2-0 over Kosa Gamers. Grandview University takes a 2-0 over Dorado Gaming White. Gentle Hearts Gaming take a 2-0 over Contingent Esports. AOE take a 2-0 over K9. BlackRock Esports take a 2-1 over Grandview University. AOE Esports take a 2-0 over Contingent. Guangdong Flying Tigers take a 2-0 over K9. And Dorado White take a 2-0 over Kosa Gamers.
All right. So let's get the elephant out of the room. Last time we had an episode, I shit on GVU for being the most screwed team in the ACL, and then they turn around and absolutely dumpster Dorado Gaming White. ShamWow, the top laner for GVU, was kind enough to give me his POV VODs, so I could actually watch that series. And wow. So first of all, game 1 was hilarious because I think there was maybe like 10 kills given over to Grandview in the first like 10 minutes. Like, every lane was winning. Dorado White were always first to the play, but they kept fucking up. And so because of that, Grandview kept getting kills. And so every lane was ahead. Like, literally every matchup that you could, like everyone on Grandview was gapping their counterpart and had more gold over their counterpart by like 10 minutes. And by 15 minutes, there was an FF. It was a direct, like, surrender at 15. Dorado White just fucked off in game number 1. They picked a comp that just got absolutely outscaled. It certainly was absolute cinema. And then game number 2 was Dorado White, maybe tilted, I don't know. They got TP flanked 3 times, well, more like 2.5 times by Grandview after they had like some really good engage angles, and Grandview just hand stiffed them. So where I said they were screwed, I now retract that statement, or rather, change that statement to Grandview are screwed if their hands stop working, because these players actually have mechanics. Like ShamWow in particular, obviously it was his POV, so I was able to look at him the most of any player on the squad. But these guys actually know how to pilot like mechanically difficult champions, like Kaisa, Fiora, Camille. Like, these are champions where you actually have to know how to side lane and actually know how to like take trades and outlane your counterpart. And it felt like they were doing that all across the board. So this team has a win condition, I think, to be able to pick up more matches, but it's just a question of like, can they unlock it? Because Dorado White, I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Dorado White. Everyone was high on these guys, and it seems like this team is a little bit inconsistent. So I'm wondering your guys' opinion on them, because this feels like something that not only is Dorado White facing, but Dorado Black is facing as well. It feels like both of them are facing some consistency issues.
I do think that if any roster was full of inconsistent players, unfortunately, I would have said Dorado Gaming White. I think the added fact that like some of these guys are banking a lot on success they've had. What are we looking at, like a year ago now?
Like,
for some of
these guys have been around. Some of these guys have been around forever. Like Munchie, Kachu, Drexler has been around since like I was a baby.
Yeah, I mean, Snow's the Snow's best days I can think of have definitely been a while ago. I definitely know that some of these players aren't tilt-proof either, or that I would say they're tilt-proof. So the fact that they FF'd a game of 15 doesn't surprise me. This is a team where they are prone to blowing up weeks. I distinctly remember it happening with the last iteration of Team Fish Taco in the ACL with like Snow. But then they're also available. Like when they click, like they're scary. So does it surprise me that we had a week where they tilt FF to 15 when they just gap themselves and then tilted the rest of the series? No, it doesn't. How much am I going to grade them for it? Not as much as I would a lot of these other teams.
Yeah, they still technically are 2-1, so it's not like I would say it's a debacle compared to another team that we're going to talk about soon enough. But I think that like you mentioned, like they are a team that rides their highs really high and rides their lows really low. Like if something goes wrong, they are sticking to that wrong. If something goes right, they are sticking to the right. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I take away with the Rado Gaming Wide. I think that they are going to get out anyway. But I also feel like this is a good wake-up call in the sense that it's a good sign for Piltover that there is a little bit of competition from Grandview as well. And it makes it so that everyone apart from AOE has to fight for their spot. Like even BlackRock that was able to recover some games and is 3-1 right now, you still are not completely out of the water because just quickly looking at BlackRock's wins, they are against quote unquote weaker teams than them and not necessarily the strongest competition. But at the same time, like 3-1 right now because of everyone having at the very least a win doesn't mean that you're going to get out of the group. Like you can just lose every game out after this and you're out of the player phase. So it still makes it quite fun. And I think that this is why I think the group was closer than originally maybe some people were saying, because even in AOE 3-0, it doesn't mean anything right now for them with the parity of the group. So it's kind of fun to see Piltover like this, and we'll just have to wait and see if any of the other teams will step it up even higher than GBU.
For sure. I think BlackRock really haven't been tested yet. Like I think since they've been able to, that you basically hit the nail on the head, TDS, that like they haven't been playing against like stronger teams. They have a bye this week as well, so we're not going to be able to test that out, at least for now. I think their big test is actually going to come in the next, like Guangdong to me are essentially the worst of the best in a way. Like they are a top team that I would probably say are going to finish fourth if I had to assume where where they would all end up at the end of the split. Like I think Guangdong have a very real chance to make it into the playoffs. If BlackRock cannot beat them, then I don't actually think it's going to get better for them, because after they face GFT, they're going to have to go against, let's see here, they're going to have to go against AOE, and then right after that, it's the final week, and they are going to have a tough time because they are going against AOE again, and then Gentle Hearts. So, or no, not A, or they're going against K9 in week 7. I was about to say they're going against AOE twice. But like I can totally see this team squeezing into playoffs, but it all matters on I would say if they can beat Dorado White, and like if they can be better than Dorado White and they can be better than Guangdong. So if they can't be better than those, then I'm not sure about this squad. Like I could certainly see that being like a fake scoreline that can easily turn the other way. One squad that I actually am really high on in the Piltover standings, and now more than ever because we got recent news that this is actually the last split that they're going to be with us, is Gentle Hearts. This squad, and you can ask like their personal broadcast because I know they have their own game streamed. This squad is actually really good. Like I was asked recently by Sneezes, like what other teams deserve like more eyes. And like in my second paragraph or in my second tweet, I said GHG because I actually think GHG have a lot of interesting players and a really solid squad that could go far. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on them, because I actually think this team could I could see this team actually finishing second.
In the group, right? Not in the
league.
The
group.
Okay.
No, not in the league.
That's a really high ceiling if you were saying.
Yeah.
Second in Piltover for sure. I think that's a very real ceiling.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad ceiling to put them at. I think they have I think it's top 3 top laner in the group pretty much. Between them, it's Lawrence, Cozy, and Porch, I would say for top 3 top laners in the group. I think.
Yeah.
Then Cross,
On the right
which
day and the right
succeeds in
meta, you could
jungler.
say top 2, top 1. To be
Yeah,
honest,
exactly.
Lawrence is
Like
very good.
I think he can
Yeah.
contest for any of the 3 positions. And then the bottom part of the team, Drew, Mako, and Nausicaa, I think they're a weird core, sorry, because I think they can be really good, but at the same time, I don't think I've seen them being really good. And so like I don't think I've seen enough pop-up performances by them to say that they are really good compared to their competition. But I do think that they are really good, which is a weird thing to try and I don't know to try and put it out there. Like I feel like if they were more not flashy, but if they were more consistently carrying their weight, I feel like they would they would make this GHG roster much scarier. Which is why I think like top 2 makes sense on paper, but
Yeah.
on reality, I feel like they are a top 3 team at most.
My whole takeaway from Piltover is just the fact that this is like the most high variance group of all time, and that maybe like leans to the idea that everyone talks about that Piltover is the most wide open. But like if we're just like basing off like player knowledge, and I'm gonna lean OQ history with some of these teams, like
That's fair. Actually,
like
Okay.
GFT was the team that got upset by Illuminate. I really believe in Evan Lai, Elias, Sunlight. I'm really high on but Ultia, but like these guys just they can lose series that don't make any sense. We already talked about Dorado giving away. They literally just lost a series that didn't make any sense. Guangdong already lost a series they probably shouldn't have
yeah,
earlier on. Wasn't it like week 1?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they lost to Contingent,
Yep.
which like Contingent is like the same vibe to me as Illuminate was in the Okias. And then like we already had the conversation with BlackRock. Like BlackRock on paper, like Nori B I can solo carry games at OQ level. I've heard a lot of people really high on St. Ghoul before we came into this. Krakenon, like I've seen Krakenon be so impressive. I've seen Diesel be so impressive, but these guys lost OQ series that made no sense.
P&Ws, right? Or no, not
Yep.
P&Ws. Or did they
Well,
lose
what
to P&Ws?
P&Ws was one of them.
Yeah.
And they're prone to doing it here. AOE is like some of these players, not at the ACL level, but like some of these players are known to tilt off and lose series at a higher level. So like, it's so hard for me to grade who the hell is going to make the playoffs here because
Yeah.
the variance for like the top 5 teams like is just insane to
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
it's just the wild west here in Piltover.
And that's where I think like GHG like are actually special because they have like a level of consistency that I think is needed in order to make it out of Piltover. Like I actually got to watch, like I'm going off of week 3 stuff more than week 4 stuff. But like I got to watch like their contingent series that was covered by I believe Niarco and someone else, I forget. But yeah, it was fun to see Niarco cast again.
Yep.
Member of the podcast on hiatus.
Yep.
Original member, yep.
But like this team, to me, they live and die by Drew Dozer and Cross. Like that mid jungle duo, along with Lawrence being kind of like the Thor, kind of the one of the big 3, but like kind of in the background. You know, he wasn't a part of the Civil War movie. Like he is there, but like Drew Dozer and Cross are the bread and butter of this squad, and they pick really interesting stuff that like accommodates them. Like you can see it in their drafts. They'll pick shit like Trundle Jungle. They'll pick shit like Vex. Like they play to the strengths of their mid jungle. My biggest concern though is the bot lane. Like Mikel, I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. And then and then Love and Rage, their support.
Nausicaa.
They're okay. That was Nausicaa. They're really
It is Nausicaa, yeah.
they're really kind of just there. Like it feels like this is a team that wants to play for their bot lane, but it clearly is not their best lane to play through. Like this is Drew motherfucking Dozer we're talking about here. Like he is that bitch in the mid lane. So to see them have like an internal crisis in some games where they're like, oh, but we got to give Mikel and Nausicaa some attention. Like, no, you don't. Like, play for your mid laner, play for your Vex. Cross and Lawrence can do stuff on the top side. and you've got a really strong topside team. So I think if they just figure out and realize that this style of play is how they win games, this team gets second. Like they have the consistency to do it. They have the talent to do it. They just need to realize what strategies are most effective and run with it. Like even if other teams aren't doing it, play what works for you. That is the biggest thing that I feel like I have to echo in the ACL. And this is something I'm going to get to when we talk about Noxus and more specifically Mirage Alliance Baguette. But like playing for your style is the most important thing I have found to be the case in the ACL, because other teams that are just kind of echo chambering what other squads are doing, those are the teams on the bottom.
Yeah. That's why a big match to watch in this group is going to be the featured match this week. Unfortunately, I won't be here on Friday, so it's going to be Slayer and TDS on the Aegis stream. It's going to be Ferris and Quax on the Salt Mine stream. We don't have to get into too many details there, but on the Aegis stream, featured match is going to be GFT versus GHG. I think that's the big match to watch for second in this group, right? If you have a lot of confidence in AoE, which I think a lot of us do, yeah, that's one thing. BlackRock, they have their inconsistencies. They're still in the running as well. It's not like it just gets decided by this match. But GFT versus Gentle Hearts, I think, is a very important race for second game.
Yep.
And for all the reasons already outlined about the inconsistencies between Dorado White and BlackRock. So seeing how that rolls out in week 5 will be a big decider in this group.
Yeah, for sure. All right, boys.
All right, let's hop over to Noxus.
All right.
All right,
So-
we're making good time. We're making good time.
Nexus. Yeah.
All right. So
Get it?
All right, Noxus. Actually, less games than most of the other groups here. I think because
Yeah.
they actually play. Nope, they
Oh,
didn't play
God.
most of their games. So they're.
Don't look week 5, Gordo.
Oh my
Don't-
God, there's so
Yeah.
many
Look at
TBD
week
games
5.
in week 5. All right, week 3.
Oh my.
Supernova
no
Dark
Slayer.
Matter.
I know what we're doing all weekend.
Yeah, but Quacks, these are all TBD.
They're all
Like, they don't
TBDs,
have
bro.
dates.
They'll come out
Exactly.
during the weekend. Trust.
We'll figure it
Okay.
If
out.
there's some,
I'm
I'll
in.
join you guys in.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right.
Can Ivor give us an award for most streamed ACL matches?
Yeah,
all
can
time?
we get like?
Dude,
can
we should
get, like-
couch co-stream some of these. We should get like the full
We
squad on
should.
and just
We
like
could do
actually-
that.
Yeah,
I would do it.
that would actually be really fun. What if we had like we had like a couch overlay in the corner and we all put our webcams over
Just-
like little children, and then we were just like, okay, oh yeah, look it over there. Yeah, that would be like a vibe.
I'm down to do that.
That
I
reminds
don't-
me of
I don't
what-
want
what-
to. I don't want to sidetrack us too much, but we do that on Omega Strikers sometimes. We do like New Year's.
That's
on,
awesome.
we do like New Year's tournaments and stuff where the players have to drink and the casters are drinking, and like we have everybody
sense.
like on a couch setup, like literally just like splicing in all the Discord, freaking camera, dude, splicing in all of our video feeds all next to each other. It's a disaster. It looks
It's a beautiful disaster.
it's
What,
like that, and there's like an advertisement on top of it, and like 3 different
course.
Twitch streams all in there at the same time. It's like seeing into the future of what streaming is going to look like. It's like it's the most TikTokified stream I've ever seen.
I
It's
love
a whole
it.
bunch of fun.
What's
fucking
what,
awesome.
what combine did we cover when we did that here? Didn't we? Because that was a hilarious one.
I don't think I was
We
a part
did
of
it.
that.
We just did a
You were
couch
not.
co-stream of NACL Qs back in like the
I
first
swear it
split
was-
they let us do it.
Wasn't it like
Was
the
it?
first ones?
Yeah, like the
Maybe-
first
okay.
the first OQs they let us in as community streamers. It was like Yumi, TDS, Bonfire did a couple. Maybe
thought-
maybe
yeah.
Narco was there too.
And Narco
I
was there
think
too. 'Cause remember
Narco
that's when
maybe- yeah.
Narco threw out all of his completely ass takes about Sorry, you don't. I'm not sorry. Completely ass takes about bottom.
calling out
his
my
solo
man.
queue takes hurt me, but yeah, yeah, we should do that. I mean, we
That
can find
sounds
time
fun.
to do it.
We had a whole
All right,
debate
all
about
right.
what boosted means. I remember this.
Yeah, this dude was trying to say that AD carry players are more boosted than support players. I don't want to hear it. Quacks.
All right, let's get to this.
Good old times.
Okay.
Oh,
Supernova Dark
God.
Matter takes a 2-0 over Calamity Esports. Mirage Alliance Baguette takes a 2-0 over Dorado Gaming Black. Supernova Dark Matter again takes a 2-0 over Nanos Noobs. Weber State University takes a 2-0 over Calamity Esports. Nanos Noobs takes a 2-0 over Dorado Black. Mirage Alliance Baguette takes a 2-0 over Pick Me Galio. And CCG Esports takes a 2-0 over Straw Hat Crew. There are no game 3s in this group.
All right,
It's all or
Pick Me
nothing.
Galio. The perfect runs over for
Rip
Pick Me Galio.
Pick Me Galio.
RIP.
They
Oh.
really,
Galio.
they
But, like,
really are a different team from the Pygmy Galio that went in OQs. They at the very least won a game.
Yeah,
they
they're
are
better.
winning games,
They're better
actually.
than the
Yeah,
Pygmy Gallios
exactly.
that went in OQ. They're actually
But-
they were 2-0 for a bit.
But I mean, about fucking time. Like, I mean, I love Pick Galio, but this team was never going to be at the top of Noxus in my mind. Like the
Yeah.
fact that they made it this far, I think is super cool. And I'm really excited to cover one of their games because I fully intend for the Salt Mine to declare themselves onto a Pick Me Galio series one way or another, and Slayer cannot stop me.
We have to, or whoever runs their social and is so nice to me will kill me.
Yeah, that's true.
I responded under another Pick Me Galio thing, and whoever
Yeah.
runs their account went
Is
and
it-
pulled
I
a
told
clip. He pulled
Is
a
it
clip
not
from
YB Silver? I thought it was them.
I thought
Okay,
I feel like
well,
it might be
it is, yeah.
YB. I will so
YB.
well, that makes it funnier. That makes it funnier because they retweeted the Dantes tweet that came out today where he was like, I'm looking for OQs. And then Pick Me Galio were like, oh yeah, we'll get him for jungle. And then I almost added YB Silver, but I would have been adding him from the account because I didn't actually know he owned that. That would have made it
Yeah.
funnier.
But he responded. He went and pulled a Slayer plays of the week from the Risen Champs League split last year to be like, this
I
guy
remember
always knew.
those.
He was like, this guy always knew about Pick Me. Yeah, I'm like, holy shit, bro.
Wait, they were
So-
in Risen
Nice
Champs?
as hell.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
so-
were.
Oh
Yeah, they
shit!
were.
All right.
Well, so okay. So first of all, I want to talk about Supernova Dark Matter.
Talk
Ladies
about
and
them.
gentlemen,
Yeah, they finally
because-
played some games, so we've got to, right?
They were sick
Holy
nasty when we watched them.
Fucking shit! This team is the real deal. Like, I don't even know how to
All right,
describe
let's call
it.
it.
because
They played Calamity and Nanos Noobs. Let's calm down.
Okay, well,
I understand that. I understand that they have definitely not faced the strongest competition in like terms of like teams.
Well, Nanos is 2-1, so
Nanos
technically
is
they
good.
could be considered a top team as of
Yes,
now, right?
yes,
the
yes.
series Quax is talking about is the Calamity series because we cast.
Okay, but
Okay,
but
fair
I
enough.
also got bits and pieces of the other series. as
Oh,
well.
okay, never mind.
But like
But boy,
the
did
thing
they
is,
slap Calamity.
this
by the way.
yeah,
was
they
not close.
slapped Calamity. It wasn't even close. This team, I can see everyone on them being like a carry player. Like particularly to me, the biggest issue whenever I watch Shimmer in open qualify, like everyone felt like Shimmer was gatekept because he would make insane plays. He would go for crazy shit, and his team would never have the balls to follow up with him. Supernova Dark Matter will charge in guns blazing for whatever play he wants to do. Like this team is like fully unleashed with some of their crazy stuff. Like they actually go like mechanically, I think that this might be one of the best teams in the ACL because like just looking at their already established players like Prank and Shimmer, they're really mechanically good. Like I think Shimmer is one of the most like hands gifted junglers in this entire like thing. Like I think he's super good. I think Popcorn and Thomas are also really are able to hand stiff their opponent. I was really impressed with Thomas in particular. Like I managed to talk to Cubby before this team, played, and I got some insider info. He gave me the wrong Quokka, by the way. Originally, I thought their support was a top laner for T1 Academy.
Dude, I
He
did
was
the
not.
same thing when he was in. I even called out in the draw show that it's not
Yeah.
the same
I remember
clock.
that.
I did
I
the same
remember
thing
that.
when he was
So
in.
it wasn't,
the
and then
Combine.
and I asked Cubby, I was like, "Hey, is this the same guy?" Nope, not the same. Or he was like, "Yup, same dude. He's from T1 Academy, all right."
No, well,
okay,
fuck you,
cool.
Covey. Why you?
One
lying?
game, one fucking game later, I get the Discord ping, the old one, not the new one. Rip the old Discord ping. Oh hey, by the way, that's not the same guy. Here's the right guy who was playing on. I think he said like Hanwha Life, like one of the like their development program, and he plays for Ball State and is also under a different name. Sorry about that. So I had to go onto the broadcasting game too and be like, hey, ladies and gentlemen. So this isn't that guy, but anyway, he's still really good because he is really good. This squad is, I think this squad is going to be fighting with CCG and Mirage Lions Baguette in the top three. Like these guys, if anyone else gets in the top three, I would be absolutely shocked because these guys to me are so much better than everyone else in Noxus at the current moment. Like I don't even think anyone comes close.
Well, talking about not coming close, the thing is that if you're talking about Mirage Alliance, right?
Yeah.
and you're talking about CCG, you have to talk about the team that lost to both of them. And it's the only 2 matches that they played, by the way, which is Straw Hat Crew.
Dude,
Like,
yeah, it's so.
they-
This is what I was talking
like,
about with like Clown Gaming. Team.
Sadly,
It's
like,
like
I think
it's like,
they're the third exactly, but like
it's like oh they're 0-2. It's like, dude, they still get to play against.
Yeah.
They still get to play. Okay, my bad. Pick me Galio, Calamity, Weaver, like Nano's noobs. Like they're gonna go 3-1 at least, and that's like let's chillax with the.
yeah. But
Straw
the thing
Hat
is
Crew
that
slander.
3-1 means that they probably will be. So if it's 3-1, they go 3-3, right? Like they still will need some of those wins, and then on the other side, Supernova still has to play the tougher opponents. Like next for Supernova is what they will play, quote unquote, because of all the pending matches they have on the same week. Straw Hat Crew and Mirage Alliance Baguette and Weber WSU. They have those 3 matches in the same week. So one is a win. The other 2 are going to be really, really, really tough for Supernova Dark Matter. And that's where the real test will come through. Because if they beat Straw Hat Crew, then I agree, they are top 3. If they lose against Straw Hat Crew, that's where I'm beginning to have a little bit more doubts. And CCG is top. I don't think I need to say anything about CCG. I think they are top of the group. They are CCG.
I don't think
They
so.
still have their players. I think they are better than everyone else. Even with Baguette, I think they are better than them, just in general.
I mean, I feel like CCG definitely could lose to either Mirage Alliance or Supernova. Like I obviously we'll never know with the let's just check here. 1, 2, 3, 4 fucking reschedules. Awesome. But like this division's all over the place. But I actually think that people are like I like CCG, and I think they're probably second best team in this whole thing behind I would say Polestar. But I honestly think that like the way Mirage Alliance Baguette and Supernova Dark Matter have been playing, like I think there is a very real possibility that CCG could get dethroned. Now this is the part where we talk about Mirage Alliance Baguette, because I'm a camel man now, guys. Like I'm wearing pink.
Okay.
I like.
You got the cigarettes
Mirage.
ready?
Are you
a Reds or a Golds guy, Quax?
I don't know what that means.
Well,
but
that's why.
young.
That's
Dude,
why.
the cigarettes thing's like a triple entendre too, because it's Mirage, it's the Camel brand, but then it's also
Yeah.
French.
Yeah.
So
Quax. It's the most popular form of cigarettes. It's
okay.
or it's one of the.
Sorry,
very
my
popular ones.
generation
See, dude,
is
look at
more
how good,
in
look
line
at how
with
great the
vapes.
new generation is coming along. They don't even know what the brands are.
Well,
No,
Gordo,
we
they
like
can.
our vapes. And,
Yeah, Gordo,
well,
they
I
can
don't
name
vape.
5 different vape brands.
let us
Yeah.
let us take a victory lap
Yo,
here,
anyone
brother,
anyone
please.
want anyone want the milk flavored vape juice?
Jewel,
What
Smock,
the hell?
Flume.
Wait, what the hell?
Yep,
I'm
it's a
forgetting other
thing.
names. Jewel, Smock, Flume. I don't know. I don't vape, but I have friends do. I can name,
Okay.
like 7 vapes.
But like Mirage Alliance are smoking that juju, because this team is absolutely crazy with how they've been playing. So, and I think part of that is because of what I kind of mentioned earlier when we were talking about Zaun and Piltover, and it's that this team does a style of game that every other team and every other org is trying and failing to do, which is playing the fighter mid laners, right? In particular, the Yone. Like the Yone at the current moment, if you go onto the champion stats for Aegis, you will find that Yone has the highest presence in the game. There are only 4 champions that have above 50% presence. It's Ashe, Syndra, Skarner, and Yone. And would you believe me if I said Yone had a 38.46% win rate? Nobody wins on this champion. And it's because they don't know how to play this character. Because this character is not a mage. It is not a marksman. It is not what anyone has been used to piloting for the past year. And everyone is trying to play it because every team is saying that this is the most broken character post 14-19. You know, you need to play this character. He's so overpowered. But no one actually knows how to play him. And no one knows how to play around the style that Yone cultivates. Mirage Alliance actually do. Like, when Utter is on the Yasuo, they draft fully for him. They draft around him. They will play the Wukong. They will play the Gragas. They will make sure that Utter is the star of the show. And I think because he is able to capture that style of play in the mid lane, they are so successful over other squads. So it's, to me, like that is what separates them from everyone else, is being able to master a style of game that no other team seems to know how to play.
And we're back. I had to restart, get some things charged really quick. We continue on. The other thing I'd want to talk about in this group is that Straw Hat Crew is 0-2. It's a little bit of an interesting start. They've had some tough opponents. Mirage Alliance Baguette to start things off, and then CCG Esports. But a little bit of a disappointing start for a squad that I was super hyped on. I do still think, easier matchups to come. I would still predict them to make playoffs. But something to keep an eye on, as we've seen some of these teams start off a little fumbly, and there's some open questions about whether or not they'll recover.
Yeah. I think it's strength of schedule at this point. Like, I'm not too worried about them to be able to pull it back. My biggest question is, like, is it going to be enough of a pullback to make playoffs realistically, right? Because, like, at the current moment, I would say, at least if we're talking about like current performances, like, I would say CCG, Supernova, and Mirage are probably all but locked. Like, if they continue this form, there's no way any of these teams miss out on playoffs unless they have like a huge fall off. Pick Me Galio is tied with Nano's Noobs currently for 4th. And I think that's going to have to be the teams that you beat in order to get to those playoffs. So I think Straw Hat Crew have the players to be able to do that. My biggest worry, though, is that at least when we casted them, and keep in mind, we casted them in week 1, their meta read was really questionable, right? I believe that was something that Slayer and I talked about in week number 1. Their meta read was not as good. And obviously as weeks go by, that changes and that improves. So if that is able to improve enough to the point where they're able to turn around games, then I don't see a reason why they wouldn't be able to make playoffs over Pick Me Galio or Nano's Noobs. But it certainly will be an upwards battle at this point because they have, lost those 2 games.
Yeah. It was, I know we took like a little bit of break on the record. That's like what me and TDS were kind of talking about. Like, and it goes back to the scheduling stuff. It's just they weren't expected to beat CCG Esports if we're playing the tier game. Mm-hmm. And then Mirage Alliance Baguette is right next to them. Week 1 opponent. 2-1, where game 3 was like a Baron fight. Whoever won the Baron fight won the series. So you played the 2 teams around you as the tier 2 team. They could just as easily 4-0 run their next 4 weeks where they don't have to play a lot of tougher competition, and then we're back to the Straw Hat Crew are a contender from Noxus conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward with that. I think it's going to be dependent on what we see in the coming days, but especially because of how many reschedules they have. Like, even one good day could just put them in the top in the fight for number 1 once again, because they have so many games remaining for just 1 week.
Yeah, I will also say, continuing our trend of talking about Dorado teams, let's I want to mention a little bit of Dorado Gaming Black. This is going to be a short segment, but I don't know about this squad. Like, I think this team. This team is essentially GVU plus like a bit of team ambition. This is in
theory the new GVU roster.
Yes. Yeah. So I think this squad is good. Like, obviously, if this is the new GVU team, then I think you are looking at them to kind of be that team again, because they were a relevant squad, I would say, in the top 32. But a big part of why I thought GVU were so successful was because of their coach. Like I thought the staff that GVU had there was really good at producing results, and when they don't necessarily have that, it seems like they just look kind of lost. Like every single game, they draft standard front to back, they draft standard death ball comps, and it feels like, especially in the case of Mirage Alliance Baguette, they just got picked apart. They got caught, they got, flanked out of position. Like they got slowly crushed in that series. And it felt like there were a few like breakout moments, like in particular, like I guess like the Lee Sin from Castle in game number 1 had its moments, and like Nightstar I think is a really good AD carry. But it just feels like they don't have much of a plan. Like going into games, it feels like they draft these very standard easy comps, and they sort of flinch at the first sign of struggle. Like this is a team that kind of like starts moving around like a dead fish the moment they get poked. It's like that one Pokemon meme where Pikachu shocks the crab Pokemon, like just like a little tiny shock, and the crab rolls over and like freaks out and like faints. That's basically my analogy of Dorado Gaming Black. The moment they have any sort of adversity in their comp, it kind of feels like they don't know how to get over it.
I think that's fair.
And they sort of just roll over.
Yeah, but I think that they are a team that, and this comes from almost every iteration that has had a castle in it, or any team that has had castle in it, that I feel like they are living and dying a lot by what castle is able to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would call them castle centric, because it would mean like he's going to be the one of the best players pretty much in contention for his role, and I think that he's really good, but like they leave too much for what Castle is able to doing. And mechanically, I think that they've been faltering, because if Castle falters, they mechanically are not able to respond accordingly. And I think that that's a difficult thing to try and go over, because you cannot not only depend on one player to do it, but if you're not mechanically responsive as well, then you're just going to straight up lose in head-to-head situations. Like there's not a lot of redeeming qualities that you can find for this Dorado Black Gaming roster. And it's kind of scary to think that I feel like the precipice for them may be not winning a game. Like who are they remaining? Well, Calamities is still in their group, and I think they still need to play against Calamities. So yeah, probably they can win that one. But then above that, I feel like it's going to be really, really difficult for them to find another win.
I think like the big thing is that this squad, like I will say, I think they have like clear win cons. Like I think Castle and Nightstar are their best carries, but it feels like they are so against being able to kind of branch out in terms of like how to get the carries ahead instead of just deathballing them past 20 minutes. One good example of this is around grub fights. Like this team, when we casted them Slayer, like they seemed super duper willing to like concede objective. Like they were very black and white with objectives. And it felt like it almost felt like after the objective, even if they got it, they were worse off. Like they never used objectives to their like extent. They never played around neutrals. They played around fights. They played around deathballing. And that never really got them anywhere. Like in particular, like this deathball got completely picked apart by Mirage Alliance Baguette in game 2. And game 2 was actually rather close. Like Nightstar was really popping off. Like I think Zeri was a really good pick. But then, like, slowly but surely, I think there was one part where Nightstar just got caught out by Garen and Demacia to the face, and then the game was just over. Like, Mirage Alliance Baguette find random picks because Dorado Gaming Black are a deathball comp that is losing a little bit of it. Like, it has, like, a member chipped away. That member gets found, and suddenly the cookie simply crumbles, right? Like, it feels like these are very winnable games that they just lose off of basic macro to champions that should not be succeeding. Like if I see a set support and I see a Garen, I'm not going to be over here being like, oh, this team is super favored to win. Like Garen is such an OP champion. Set support is so good. I live in 2020 and I never left. Like this is a comp that I look at and it's disgusting. I love it, but it's disgusting for Mirage Alliance Baguette. Dorado Gaming Black should have been able to win that game. But like they are just tripping over basic macro stuff. So it's a bit kind of shitty because I feel like GVU is a squad that like I'm looking forward to watching in spring because they were really good in CLOL. Like I think Ginkwall in particular is a really good mid laner. And I think Castle in particular is a really good jungler. But it seems like this team is really lost in macro and what to actually do to improve.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of those points. My issue, at least from the Mirage Alliance Baguette series, was I think, Ariana's maybe still getting adjusted to a very different life, playing over here now, playing with Dorado Gaming Black. And I wasn't too impressed with Ginkwall in that series. I think their solo lanes are failing them currently. And like Quax just talked about, well, especially with Ginkwall, I've seen some of his absolute carry moments. He didn't really show me against Utter. He was utterly outproportionately beat by Utter.
Utter is really good. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how high Utter can go, but I'm really high on this kid. Like I think he's super good. I like that Mirage knows that he's good too. Like they clearly want to play around him, and that is a really promising sign for a rookie like him. And also the fact that we're seeing him in the Cyto Combine means that he could potentially go far. So I'm gonna buy the Utter Bucks as early as possible because I believe in this kid for sure.
Yeah, and him and Decoy, who had his moments in the OQs, like went soloing out guys like Dragoon, really just was bodying Ariana in this series. So maybe a growing pains issue for Dorado Gaming Black, but I definitely thought their solo lanes were the biggest issue. I definitely believe Nightstar and Pluto were probably their best players across the two games that I got to see.
Sure. All right, but I feel like Noxus definitely I feel like we can come to the consensus that Noxus feels like the most straightforward group of all of them. I feel like this squad or this group of 9 teams definitely has like a pattern to who is where, whereas Zaun, Piltover, hell, even Demacia are a little less structured, basically. I feel like this is kind of where like the predictability comes in, like where we can really predict where the matches are going to go. And I think it's especially the case with Noxus. Like I think there are clearly better teams. Like there are upper echelon teams and there are lower echelon
I think
teams.
that's true in broad strokes. And I think it's probably like very close to guaranteed that Mirage, Supernova, and CCG are all making it out. It's the Straw Hat Crew, Pick Me Galio, Nanos, Noobs battle for 4th that interests me in this group. Because it's like, if I were to make a prediction, I would say I expect Straw Hat Crew to make it. Because the caliber of talent on the team. But it's like that it's hard for me to call that like straightforward, right? Because this is me saying that a 0-2 team is going to like massively change trajectory, and like a Pick Me Galio and Nanos Noobs team that have already like shown to be competitive and like put up good fights against teams that we like are just not going to be able to do it. And I don't know that I have that like absolute confidence. So I think there's still a race to be had here.
I think that's fair.
All right. Well, with that, let's get over to Demacia. We've ran long as hell. Probably not as long from the viewer perspective because we've cut out like 20 minutes of us fumbling around with stuff. That's mostly my fault. But let's get into Demacia, where we have 2 more weeks of games as usual, though only 2 games got played in week 3, so feels a little bit more like 1 week of games. CCG Glorp takes a 2-0 over Peak Performers. That was on stream. Converse University takes a 2-1 over Chaotic Solar. ISU take a 2-1 over Polestar. That was also on stream. Excited to talk about that one. CCG Glorp take a 2-0 over Converse. Next Level Esports take a 2-0 over the Agency. Drop Dead Gaming Resilience take a 2-0 over the Agency, and Polestar take a 2-0 over Next Level Esports.
ISU might actually be the best team in Demacia by like
ISU
large
I'll take you one
best
step farther.
teams in
I'll
the
take you
tournament.
one step farther. I think
They're
they are
literally
the
the best
best
team in
team
the
right
ACL.
now.
They
I think they are the
might
best
actually
team right
like
now.
I could see
legitimately.
this team making
They're a
it
really
like
good
I
team.
obviously this is way ahead. I can see this team making it as far as like semifinals in like playoffs. Like I'm not even shitting you. Music is so fucking good at League of Legends. It's actually kind of
Yeah.
insane how hard this guy gaps everybody he plays against. Like it's crazy. I actually think this entire squad, like if this is to be believed, that like I asked TJ when we casted them, TJ said that this was the new program, like this was the new team the program was running with going forward. And holy shit, I like if they do well in the ACL, I'm gonna start looking forward to CLOL because this TN like probably be a Redbird because goddamn, this squad is so beyond cracked. Like I think Fatikan in particular might be like a top 380 carry in the ACL at the current moment. Like this guy comes out of nowhere and just starts shit stomping people.
Yeah, like Vatican and Bardo, both of them pretty much like you were mentioning, music gapping every jungler. They gapped Levitate and Cryogen, in my opinion.
Oh,
like they legitimately
so hard.
run through them so effectively. That was a series where Vatican was kind of like Levitate, and then Levitate was not Levitate. That way, it's amazing the way that they play that bot lane so effectively. And I feel like Bardo didn't get the roses that I feel like at some point he deserved because he was also setting up so consistently for the team. I'm reminded of one of the, I think it was the first game where Samikin pushes into the mid lane so heavily. Like he's dominating mid lane pretty comfortably on Syndra. Bardo ganks mid, sets up the flash down for the Syndra, then re-ganked by Music. First blood, the game completely explodes after that point. And it's something so like quote unquote simple where when you look at how it happened, where it's it's the way of taking steps, right? Like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they make those 5 steps work out really, really well. And it shows that they are really well prepped to make them happen. And it's something that even if it looks simple, so many teams fail at doing, but they are doing it so effectively, so consistently. Like this series should have been a 2-0, not a 2-1. Like it should have been a 2-0. There were so many arguments for ISU to simply just demolishing Polestars, and the fact that it went to 3 games, I think credit to Polestar for being able to pull it around. But I think it also goes to show just how far ahead ISU were compared to Polestar and how much better they just simply felt like they were in general in the first 2 games. Third game was a little bit more balanced, but in the first 2 games, it was all ISU.
Yeah, and I want to take what Quax was saying earlier. Like, I don't about semifinals. Like, I don't even think you need to hedge. Like, I mean, if you hadn't seen that Pulse ISU game last week, and you were like ranking who you think the top teams in the ACL are, like, Pulse would be like up there. They'd be in like a very, very like they'd be in like an S tier. If I were if I were doing it, I would prefer to do a tier list than like rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I were gonna do that, like Pulse would be in whatever the highest tier I could get is, and so would ISU now. Like ISU would 100% have to be in there. Like I don't think there's great reasons to say that like Pulse wasn't coming in like one of the strongest rosters here. You know, like yeah, Hoarder and Cryogen are maybe more borderline NACL than true NACL talent, but there's players like that on every team, right? CCG has Aojun, AoE has City Witty and Ariandel. Pulsing Gooners has Wakao. Like every team has players like this. So it's I don't really think there's a strong case to be made that like other teams are like pound for pound like significantly more individually stacked than like a team like Polestar is, and ISU were able to like handedly take care of them. It was a very strong series from them. Yeah, obviously it goes to 3, right? It's not like they completely run away with it, right? But they had very strong early games. This very easily could have been a 2-0. Like Polestar had to mega come back in game number 2. Like I'll even go so far as to say it should have been a 2-0. Like it's
It should have been
crazy
100%.
that they came back in that game number 2, and 9 times out of 10 they won't.
Yeah.
And by
Like they
by the
came
way,
back
just
by
before I
virtue
forget
of
to say
being their
this,
players.
before I forget to say this, this is not relevant, but I just noticed they added Sajed yesterday.
They did.
Polestar.
I saw that just now.
That's crazy.
I
But anyway,
don't-
no,
I
let's
don't know-
continue
I
the
don't
conversation.
know-
I'm sorry to derail.
Oh wait, I didn't. Yeah, no, I didn't even realize that
Yeah.
either. Damn.
That's pretty cool. I think it's probably
I-
still going to be Levitate as the starter, but
Yeah.
I do have to give credit to Meslo though, because like this was probably the one thing keeping me back from fully rooting for this team. Meslo's swap from top to mid lane like raised my eyebrow, and I doubted its effectiveness. He has actually been slotting into the mid lane really well. Like I don't know
Yeah.
who is coaching this guy. I don't know how he's
Command
like
attack.
training around this role. But goddamn, Meslo as a mid laner is actually really effective.
agree.
And it feels like this team, I will say, I think that this squad, like looking at their games, it doesn't actually feel like they have any inherent weaknesses. Like I think the biggest thing is that sometimes they get a little bit lost in the sauce. Like I know that Music really likes to play aggressive. He loves to invade. He loves to be in your face and up your ass. And sometimes that backfires. Like even in the games versus Polestar, like him going in too deep caused them to lose control from time to time, but they always kind of manage to bring it back. If Polestar though cannot really run away with that weakness, then I find it difficult to believe any other team is going to be able to exploit that to a level where they're going to take a series off of them. Like obviously I am not saying ISU are going to go undefeated, fucking win the ACL, and then they're going to promote, and then they're going to be in the NACL. They're going to win every game there, do the same thing in the LCS. They're going to go to Worlds, smack Chovy in the face, run away with the Summoners Cup, and take it home. But like this squad seems like they're incredibly capable of unfucking their mistakes, which I feel like other teams are not. Like even when they screw up, they like take a breath, they bring it back, and they focus on their game, right? Because none of their like screw ups result in such a big deficit to the point where now we're behind. So I think just like the consistency and the resolve from them alone is enough to make them a good team. But the fact that they are so mechanically gifted and so aggressive on the map, just to me, it means that they're like an extra mile above like so many others.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys took really all the talking points I maybe had for ISU. I've been on.
Sorry.
I thought no, it's fine. Hey, talk your talk. ISU, I was kind of bought in after last week or last time that we got to cover them on the salt mine. The main point I was going to hammer through was I'm definitely glad that you gave Meslo credit because he is a very like a stabilizing force.
Yes.
In that mid lane for ISU when things can get chaotic with that bottom lane and with Music's more aggressive jungle picks. It reminds me a lot of how they used to run. Why am I blanking on the NACL jungler? TLC jungler before Keel. Before Keel.
Mir.
Who was before Mir?
Mir.
It reminds me of how TLC operated where Mir wanted to play his Kingdred picks and then APA could like run Nautilus mid or like Galio mid. It's like, oh, this guy's just the rock of the team. He's playing mid lane and their jungler just giga carries. That's like the vibe I get from the Music Meslo duo right now. And if I'm not mistaken, that TLC duo combo kind of worked pretty nutty. So ISU's giving me that same vibe with a absolutely cracked 80 carry. Fatacon's positioning is insane. This dude does not panic when he has 3 skill shots coming at his head. He just stands. He's like the king of hitting the S key, which is like the hardest thing for 80 carry players to do. Is like, oh, I need to stop moving. The dude just stands still. He also plays a nasty Kai'Sa where like he finds these old angles that are just absolutely absurd. He's done them multiple weeks now.
Yeah.
The calmness this guy brings is something that you look for in every 80 carry prospect you ever want. And whoo, it's dirty.
He's so good. I actually like this team makes me excited for CLOL, man. Like I know we're nowhere near spring, and I know we're halfway through Aegis, but like I don't know. Like I'm really interested to see how this team stacks up against that kind of competition because
Against Maribel.
Yeah, like I actually think that the Redbirds could. I feel like the Redbirds could be for next year what Northwood were for this year. Like kind of that dark horse that nobody kind of saw coming, except us, of course, because we're talking them and glazing them up.
That's the thing. I think they're going to come in as like a way higher seed. I think they're going to just be very good.
I think
in
they're
their
just going to be good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really high on this team though. Like I actually am a huge fan of them because I think they're really good.
I am as well. Shout out to
the rest
Meslo
of-
for carrying me in a normal game a couple days ago.
Really?
Yeah, I just got randomly matched with him. He played Zaya and carried the shit out of me on a terrible Gragas game.
That's awesome.
But
I
he
do
carried
think-
you, that's what matters.
I actually think Demacia, I'm willing to bet, is the most shored up group. Not to flame some of these lower teams.
I would
But
say the only
pretty-
reason it's not is because of Converse, who have like less games. Like I feel like some of their teams are less fleshed out.
Yeah, but I love some of those boys on Converse. That is a bottom lane or die team in a meta that is not bottom lane dependent right now. I actually think, unfortunately, I'm pretty confident that we could just say Polestar, Peak Performers, ISU, and CCG Cheater Glorp are gonna make the playoffs. And I'm calling them Cheater Glorp because that's supposed to be the development team, and it's just Maryville. So
I actually feel like CCG Glorp. Like I don't know. Like
Let's talk about that team a little bit because we also the other featured match that we haven't gotten to talk about is
Yeah,
we did
but-
CCG
so,
Glorp
yeah.
against Peak Performers.
Peak Performers,
And
and they dismantled
I mean,
them.
Peak Performers have not played other matches since then,
Wasn't
so they're
close.
still at 0-2. It was not close though. Yeah. They look like Dragonsteel. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Mini played solidly. I think Vacant played solidly, but we talked with Vacant a little bit after the game, and he's just like, "Yeah, man. I mean, jungle
that was
does not.
hilarious.
He's like, jungle does not matter, man. My laners are so good. It
True.
is so easy to play
It was
this
so
game.
easy
He
for
just-
them.
I just go wherever I want and do whatever I want. And Scary Jerry, Zyko, 580, and Zamuda are always crushing them. And I mean, I can't really argue with that. That's a good, that's a good situation for these
I
boys.
hate the fact that we didn't see this CCG Glorp against this ISU because it was the previous CCG Glorp roster that actually
it's an
played
incoming
against them.
playoffs match if they all keep
Yeah,
playing
it's
the way they're
something for
playing.
the future.
We don't
but, like,
bring up that
too much.
CCG
Yo,
Glorp ISU
Ki-
matchup because of how that is.
Kitsuo, if you want Kazakh's coaching, hit up my DMs, bro, because that was
my
not it. Like,
Damn.
so look,
And yeah, it was awful.
I have to flame the Kazakhs pick because it is a good matchup into Xin Zhao, but if I am going to have to play against a champion with a silence, then I'm alt F4ing because silences shit stomp Kazakhs as just like a concept. And it makes just the game impossible. Like I feel like this is a good matchup, but then you look at every other champion and Kazakhs has absolutely no chance. Like I could never see this champion working against Lucian, Nami, or Garen. Maybe against Orianna, but like without I would say 2 big points of engage, and I'm not counting Ahri as engage. You don't really function well as a champion. Like you're entirely reliant on W in a comp like this where you have Karma, Ezreal, Ahri, and just you poke them out, but you do no damage with your poke because they have Garen, Xin Zhao. Like poke comp against Xin Zhao, nice. Yeah, my DMs are open, my guy. That's all I gotta say.
Sending messages to the jungler that lost. in the
Now I'm gonna
Makes
get
sense.
flamed. Like
That's a good place to leave it out. I might clip that for the intro.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's definitely the intro. Enjoy Quax.
Perfect for us, actually.
I'm also gonna pump the Peak Performers flame, like halfway because the Chaotic Solar loss was bad, but they
Yeah.
also just had to play Dragonsteel, and that's their only 2 matches. So like,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think they'll be okay.
I think they'll be fine.
that's partly why I think they're still gonna be a playoff because like out of the 4 teams that I just like, here I'll go on record. I don't know. I'm not gonna say like something stupid I have to do if these aren't the 4 playoff teams. I'm just not doing that. But I will say here the four playoff teams are Polestar, Peak Performers, ISU, and CCG Glorp.
Okay.
Clip this and flame me if it turns out different. Chaotic Solar, Next Level Esports, who are actually pretty good squad.
So-
Converse, clip it. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
So I
would say
can get behind
Converse.
that, but so Peak Performer still has left ISU, that to me is a loss, straight up loss. Then Drop Dead, which is understandable. The agency, they should beat them. Next level, I can see that. But then they need to play Polestar as well. And I don't
Yeah.
think that 3 victories are going to be enough.
I actually
Like
think
that-
NLE are really good. Like
Big-
I think NLE are underrated as hell. I think
So
NLE could do it.
I think the defining game for Peak Performers for playoffs will be Converse, which is the
Mhm.
last match of them.
Yeah.
Like their last match is against Converse, and this may be a match where Peak Performers may perfectly be already eliminated. So I want to say that Peak should be top 4, but the problem is that first of all, I think Converse is underrated. I think Converse is much better than some people give them credit for. And second, I think that they've thrown, or not thrown, but like losing these 2 games does put them in a really difficult spot. And to a certain degree, no fault to them. It's CCG Glorp changing members out of nowhere and then pretty much potentially being a top 2 team out of nowhere. And then ISU being in a much, much better form than we were expecting. Because I think Polestar was expected to be 1. And then we were expecting that there was going to be a good fight for the next teams. But like the fact that Peak started 0-2 already may be a little bit scary for them. And I think that last match against Converse is going to be a really, really fun one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there definitely are, like, now that we're like getting into the like second half, I feel like we can definitely scout out like make or break matches for teams going into like that's kind of been the common theme of all of them is that we basically understand 3 teams that are most likely going to make playoffs, and then there's 3 teams or 4 teams that are taking that last spot up for grabs. And I think those are the squads that should really be having all the eyes on them in the next 4 or so weeks, because those are the squads that you are probably going to be seeing fighting tooth and nail to actually like I would imagine as the weeks go by, the effort, and I would say most importantly motivation for some of these top squads that are going to eventually already lock playoffs. Like, who fucking cares, right? Like, we're going into playoffs, we can just chillax. These squads are going to be sweating like a fucking swimming pool until the last minute the regular season goes on. So like, to anyone who's looking at like squads to take a look at the ones we're saying are going to, be fighting for that last spot, because those are the ones that are really going to be giving it their all.
Yeah, the final thing I'm gonna ask all of you guys. I'm just gonna reiterate the Peak Performers roster here. All right, do we really believe that Alorum, Kitsuo, Robbie Bob, Sagewabe, and Dardoch are going to miss ACL playoffs? Do you in your heart believe it? Because I think that's a ludicrous thing to say yes to.
We've had rosters like that missed out on playoffs, so I wouldn't put
Have
it
we?
away.
Like this caliber?
We've had rosters that are good missed out on playoffs before. That being said, it is true that this is probably a roster that should never be out before playoffs.
Let's just say, so Tony Top, Amazo, Sudsy, Levitate, Snow almost missed.
Yeah, didn't they win the whole thing though?
Yes, and they forfeited a match.
Yeah, like what are we talking about?
I don't think this is a good argument. I think that's like the best team.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know
we've
if that's
ever
a good argument,
seen.
but
almost
that's the best.
Okay,
that's the most off-kilter ratio of like good team to bad performance I can think of. Unless let me go find that Zamudo team from last fall that didn't make it. I don't remember who was on it.
I don't remember either, but
you
I don't
continue
think
the
it
conversation.
Was
I'm gonna go
great.
find it.
I mean, it's just this is like what? This is Dardoch a role swap, so I'll say like nerf Dardoch, but this is still like
I agree.
multiple promo tournament Dardoch. This is Sagewabe, arguable promo hero for Polestar. It's Robbie Bob. Kitsuo, it's been shaky, and then Alorum, who like. How many times does this guy get close to promoting? I don't
I mean,
but how much has he been playing recently?
I hear what you're saying, Slayer, and like on paper, yes, this is a squad that like should make it, but I feel like you've got 2 other teams, potentially even 3, depending on if Chaotic Solar wake up, where you're dealing with just like the odds are stacked against you at this point.
I think they probably will. The loss to Chaotic Solar and the loss of that head-to-head may very well screw them. Like I think I could see us. Here's what I could see. I could see us getting to a point. Yeah, I could see us getting to a point at the end of the season where we are like Peak Performers appears to be objectively the better team, but the way that the results have fallen, Chaotic Solar makes it over them. I could see that happening.
And I will say right now, if that happens, I'm not going to cop out my argument, by the way. I'll say that. Because
not even Chaotic Solar, actually. Like, just looking at first week, they already lost against... So Peak Performers lost against Chaotic Solar, where Converse won against Chaotic Solar. So if everything falls normal... Situation. Like Converse is already ahead of Peak, just by default of beating the team that they lost against. Peak Performers, yes, they have the way to qualify by winning every other matchup. But like the problem is that when you're already losing those first 2 games, and particularly when you're losing against a team that quote unquote is weaker than you, you're putting yourself in a spot where you're the desperate one. It's not Converse. Converse is in a perfect spot, right? Like they are 2-1. They lost against the obvious team that they should lost, which is CCG Glorb. And if they find a random win, like they don't even need to win against like a strong pulse or a strong ISU. Like I'm trying to look out at when they would play. Converse plays against ISU on week 6. By that point, ISU may already be qualified. So will they play to the same level? And that's where the question marks begin happening, because Peak is dependent on wins now. Converse may not be that dependent because they would already win against the teams that they should win. And then the teams that are remaining are the harder ones, so they are not going to be in a top spot because they should lose against them. And then last week is a match where Peak are obligated to win, and we don't know how Converse is going to be reaching that point either.
So here's my thing about one of them challenging Peak Performers. One thing that also makes this challenging is I think there's a group of 3 teams. Like, you need the grouping of 3 of Chaotic Solar, Converse, and Next Level Esports. One of those teams to like that gauntlet of them all having to play each other. Like it's very likely they're going to split. Like so they're going to go like 1-1, 1-2. Like somebody to actually threaten Peak Performers,
they have to like have a Peak Performers run. They have to win against everybody else. Yeah,
they have to 3-0. Exactly. So and I just don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, this is fun because we'll get to the end of this season and we'll see what happens. But I'm confident that the 4 playoff teams in Demacia have unfortunately been decided, and it's not actually. I think it's because of CCG's new roster's fault. That's what ruined it for me.
Exactly. I agree.
The Dragon Steel roster ruined this. That's what made it a 1 playoff spot.
All right.
I agree wholeheartedly. This could have been a fun two spot race for the 3rd and 4th place until CCG Glorb came in and just decided that they wanted to have like the best possible bot lane ever, and that's it.
All right. For posterity. I think this is clearly the best team to ever miss ACL playoffs. And worth pointing out, this was in 2023 fall, so a lot of these players have grown substantially better since then. But the Aporia roster of Zamudo, Mike Young, Xiao Danny, Enthralled, Detro missed playoffs.
Fair enough.
I think that's the best team to ever miss ACL playoffs. Probably.
Well,
I think this will be worse.
This would be worse. I agree. This would take that title if they missed.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So here's the thing.
It's close-ish.
I will say I will follow Slayers here. I will take the bet. I think Converse will be the 4th seed and Peak Performers will be out.
Here's the best part.
I'm with Slayer. I think it'll be Peak Performers.
Here's the best part.
We're 2-2. Converse versus play-by-play TDS.
I hope you 2 are right because I love Converse and some of their players. So like this is kind of win-win in a cheat way, but yeah, I guess it's play-by-play. I guess it's play-by-play color casters. Wait, so shouldn't we lose because we're supposed to be the dumber ones?
We should.
Quote unquote.
I think we're taking the side of logic here. I think we're taking the side of logic.
You're taking the safe bet. Quax and I are dipping our feet on a team that we believe can be better.
I believe in Converse, man. Like
I think so too. I think Converse is much better than they give them credit.
Yeah, like I personally think that Converse, if they're like, dude, they've got the hurricane buff. Like their shit got destroyed because of all of that. So now
Yo, that's crazy.
they're
Them,
riding
Quax.
the
they-
winds, the literal winds of a hurricane, and they're going crazy. They're gonna sweep through everyone in Demacia. Just you wait.
Sweep. They have to play Polestar and ISU in the next 2 weeks.
Watch.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Peak has to play ISU as well.
Yeah, it's true. But
I
like,
mean, are we allowed to keep that in? Am I gonna get in
I'll
trouble?
keep it in. I don't care.
I don't think it's
We got no
fine.
Yeah,
rules.
it's fine.
That's fine.
far
Actually,
as
we,
we
we
know,
do
we
have
don't.
one rule. The rule is we need to end the show because it's midnight.
Yeah, gee,
it's
my
midnight 30,
lord.
and I need to go to bed.
I'm with
All
it.
right, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
end the
Yeah,
show.
that's
All right.
I
Thank
think
you,
we talked
everybody,
about
for
every single
tuning
thing.
in. It's been a party. I won't be there this weekend, but tune in to the broadcast of the ACL this weekend. Slayer's filling in with TDS on the main broadcast. Ferris is filling in for Slayer on the Salt Line
Ferris.
broadcast. Both are going to be great games. Definitely go check those out. And there will be other community streams as well. I'll do my best to tweet them out. I think I slacked on that last week, but stay tuned. It's the same sheet every week. So if you take your link to the sheet, bookmark it, and check it every week to find out where there's going to be games. We'll be back next week. We're going to try to stay on our regular cadence. Apologies for missing next week, but it's been a party. It's been a long one. We will see you guys next time.